Hello everybody, my name is Gemini. I am here to give you 5 tips on castle building in Minecraft, and today we get the pleasure of seeing this beautiful remake of Kenilworth Castle, built by the team Blockworks. Let's take a little look around, shall we? This castle is absolutely stunning to look at. It includes an outer wall, a courtyard, stables, and has fantastic defendability because of the hill that it sits upon. It was built to look how it did in 1575 when Queen Elizabeth visited. Now, this was quite the challenge for the builders to reproduce, but I think they have done a fantastic job with it. When building a realistic castle, there are 5 tips that I want to give you so that you can create your own. The first of which is to plan out your castle. You want to know what height everything is going to be, what the scale is going to be, how everything is going to look next to each other. So something that the team did when building this one is that they were able to look at real life references. And even if you aren't building a castle that already exists, you can still do this. You can Google search something like castle, maybe medieval castle, something along those lines. Figure out what era you want your castle to be in. For example, this one was built for 1575, and they used real-life images of this castle, which is unfortunately now in ruins. However, there have been paintings and drawings of this castle throughout time that give us a good idea of what it would have looked like in 1575, even though there are no photos of it. So, I advise you to pick a castle that you are greatly inspired by and try to take aspects from that you love to build into your own castle. Planning really is key, and it makes every other step in this tutorial so much easier if you just get your base all planned out properly. Because Kenilworth Castle was originally built for defense, it is positioned up on a hill. Before you get any of your building in place, you want to think about the terrain around it. Kenilworth Castle is up on this little hill here. This gives it an advantage because it is elevated. And you don't want to start building your castle down on the flat ground and then realize that you need a hill. You need to build the hill first. This is a super important first step to your castle, and you need to get the terrain done in your planning phase, not in your detailing phase. It's too late by then. So now that your planning is done, let's start thinking about our shapes. If we look at this castle here, it's easy to see that there are many different shapes. I mean, there really are not a lot of straight lines. Even the walls, going from tower to tower, are curved in different directions, and this really makes it very dynamic and gives it a lot more of a realistic look. I see a lot of castles that are just a plain perfect square, and although this can work in some scenarios, I believe it adds a lot to the look if you add a lot of these curves and different shapes. This gives such a unique feel to this castle. I mean, look at this roof here. It's completely on an angle. And this does challenge the interior a little bit, but the builders here have done such a fantastic job. You can also see with this castle that there are not just 4 basic towers. There are many towers dotted around it, in both the actual castle as well as in the wall surrounding it. So when you're thinking about doing your castle, think about the amount of towers that you want to have, where you want to have them, and what shape you want them to be. This one here, for example, has more square towers here, leading up in the main building. However, back here we have some circular ones that are larger, and then some circular ones that are slightly smaller. This variety is amazing and helps out your shape so much. Next up, we're going to be thinking about the materials that we are going to use this. I mean, in Minecraft, we have so many different blocks to choose from, and you can really get super duper creative with this. So, Kenilworth Castle was built from natural sandstone. So, because it is a castle that was in real life, it was important for the builders to think about what it was made out of. This castle has this reddish tone because it is created from natural sandstone that was found in the area. Think about where your castle is going to be located. Is it on a cliff where there would be a lot of stone or maybe andesite to build the castle from? Is it going to be mainly wooden in architecture because there are a lot of trees and forests around? What materials would have been available for you to build your castle with? Thinking about your material and how the builders would have found it will make the castle so much more realistic. When thinking about what materials you're using in Minecraft, it's not only important to think about where they're coming from, but also what you have that could work together within Minecraft. So, for example, the color palette used here, you can tell, are all within the same range of color tones. But they're all used in different ways to add depth and detail to different structures. For example, there is a small difference down here. The wall is made out of a different material than the foundation. This gives the illusion that the foundation is much stronger. It gives a nice divide along the base of the castle, makes it look stronger and more put together. I absolutely love this effect. For the roofs of each building, they've differentiated the material. This way, it's very easy to see the divide between the main walls and then the roofs. It really accents the top of the castle and adds just such a nice little flair of detail. So, now that we've got the castle all planned out, we know our shapes, and we've got our materials, it's time to actually start building. So, how do we actually start? Well, I was talking to the builders of this castle, and they basically started with a wall. Mark out your wall like this one, and then figure out the heights. So maybe this wall has to go a little lower based on the reference pictures, and then this one comes higher, and this one comes higher again. And you want to mark out this before your details. So before you put any of these windows in or little slots into the wall, before there's any doorways, you want to get your shapes. Getting the shape of the castle in place is very, very important, because if you rush into your details too fast and you make a mistake, you'll end up working so much harder to pay for that mistake. Get your shapes in, get everything built up, and then worry about your details. It's not important to rush into them. Take your time to get the castle correct. The fifth and final tip I have for you guys is to not be afraid to trial and error when looking at your details. So if something doesn't work with your detailing, don't be afraid to try it again. Sometimes it can take several attempts to get a detail to look the way that you want it. Don't give up. Keep going. It's worth it. And castle building is so fun and rewarding. I know that you guys will have so much fun with it once you get the details in place that you want. Let's look at some of the details that the build team did. So, for example, here we have these foundations that are coming out from these entryways. So you have a stairwell here with a beautiful railing on it, but also across the way here, we have these super thick foundations that would have been very important into holding up the real castle. In real life, Kenilworth Castle has some walls that are up to 4 meters thick. That is a super thick wall. So when you're thinking about your castle, it doesn't necessarily have to be super thin. It needs to be sturdy. Think about whether or not it was built for defense. This castle was originally built for defense. So it's got slots for arrows. It's got walls that you can easily defend. It's got a well for fresh water during sieges. It's got thick foundations. Think about these things and it'll make it so much easier to add your details. Think about whether or not your castle had gardens. Think about what the walls going along the exterior looked like. And then think about what your castle would need to survive. I mean, in order to survive, your castle needs fresh water, so it needs a well. Your castle needs somewhere for people to sleep. Your castle needs a kitchen. But your castle also needs somewhere to put horses. For example, in these stables over here. Look at these gorgeous stables. The interior is done so amazingly. I can just picture this place filled with amazing, beautiful horses. I love the details that the builders have done for the windows here. Look at how they've used the trapdoors. Now, I want to point out something to you that one of the builders pointed out to me. So, you see you can have trapdoors here on an edge. They look so wonderful. But also over here, you can put double trapdoors together. Look at this. That's 2 trapdoors. And now from a distance, you can barely notice, but you can tell that it's a lot thicker. And it really is something that adds to the overall feel of this castle. It just adds so much detail and in such a simplistic way. It's so beautiful. Thank you guys so much for listening to my 5 tips on building castle exteriors. If you would like to see more from me on castle interiors, definitely check out the next video in this series. I hope you enjoyed this Minecraft tour of Kenilworth Castle. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!